When I tell people that I make YouTube videos about Formula 1, I can tell from their faces that they must think I'm the most boring person in the world. Okay, the second half of that sentence may be true, but low effort Formula 1 videos shouldn't be the reason for that. The problem is, a lot of people just assume that F1 is driving round and round in circles all day long, and while there is some truth to that statement, F1 is so much more than that. If you think about it, all sport sounds quite boring when you explain it in simple terms, like football, which is just 22 people trying to kick a ball into a net, or golf, which is just boring. So in this video, I wanted to do what I do best and waffle about sports in my bedroom. And in this particular one, I wanted to answer the question that so many people have asked me. What's the point of Formula 1? So to start off the argument, let's talk about the heart of F1, the cars. F1 cars are usually the fastest cars ever around a circuit, and while they obviously won't hold any land speed records, they're still pretty quick in a straight line. They pull a maximum of around 6G in the corners, which is enough to make a driver's head feel like it weighs over 30 kilos. The driver's heart rates can reach over 200 BPM during a race, and they need to generate over 80 kilograms of pressure on the brake pedal just to slow the car down. While drivers putting themselves through all this doesn't necessarily mean that F1 has a purpose, it does at least prove that F1 is a sport, which a lot of people say it isn't. Anyway, it's only taken me around a minute and a half to start waffling, so let's get back on topic, shall we? While there are a lot of series that can provide better racing, and a few which can provide the same speed, none of them are able to combine speeds of over 185 miles an hour with wheel-to-wheel racing like Formula 1 can. The 2022 regulations have been devised to produce better racing for Formula 1, hopefully putting it more in line with F2 and F3 in terms of the cars' abilities to overtake one another. That's not to say that all the cars are suddenly going to be equal, as that would defeat the point of there being a team developing the cars back in the factory, but hopefully it'll mean there won't be a 4-second gap between the Haas and the Mercedes cars next year. This brings me nicely on to the next reason that F1 isn't pointless: the teams. At the moment, we have 10 teams in F1, running 20 cars. All of these teams are aiming to build the fastest cars they can in order to win the World Championship. I'm trying not to make this too much like a beginner's guide to Formula 1, so let me just cut to the chase and explain why that's good. With all the teams trying to get the most performance they can from the cars and the FIA constantly trying to stop them, we get a sort of war, with the teams always trying to find loopholes in the rules that they can exploit. That's how Brawn won the championship in 2009 thanks to the double diffuser, and it's also why Ferrari's 2020 car was so shit. F1 is also a platform for people to make money, if they put it in the right places. While it's unlikely that investing in a team like Haas will bring much in return, seeing as they rarely even score points, meaning they rarely earn money, a lot of sponsors only sponsor teams as a way to burn off their excess revenue so they don't have to pay tax on it, and still get the benefit of a bit more brand exposure. So in some ways, F1 is also a moving version of putting all your money in a bank in the Maldives. I'm not saying that Red Bull and Petronas are conducting an elaborate tax evasion scheme, I'm just saying that F1 sponsorships are a useful way of making money and not paying tax. I put the same question to my followers on Twitter as well, seeing as I obviously can't single-handedly convince everyone in the world to like Formula 1, so let's have a look through some of the best responses I got. Matt212 said that F1 is a fun way of turning billionaires into millionaires, and to be fair, he does actually have a point, given how much it costs to even reach Formula 1 from karting, and even just the amount it costs to break a front wing in a minor crash. In 2019, Mercedes won the championship and still made a loss of $5 million, although if Daimler didn't contribute $80 million to that, it would have almost been a loss of $100 million. This was the team that won the championship as well. Of course, that statistic doesn't factor in the amount of cars that Mercedes sold thanks to their F1 success, and that's probably why they still enter, but it's still very surprising to see that the best team in Formula 1 was still making a huge loss. Red Bull and Ferrari both broke even, meaning that they would have ultimately made a profit thanks to the extra energy drinks and cars that they sold respectively, as did McLaren and Renault. Josh Revel just said fast cars vroom vroom, and ratioed me. To be fair, he did actually have a good point, in that if F1 didn't have the fastest cars in the world, then it probably wouldn't attract the same amount of viewers that it does in the moment. Think about it, if F1 teams were all making cars slower than those of IndyCar or LMP1, then surely there would be a lot of people who wouldn't watch it anymore. Not to mention, I personally watch F1 because of how complex every part on the car is, and how they can all work together to make such a fast machine. And I also simp over Max Verstappen and Lawrence Stroll. Some wannabe comedian just said 10th place, to which I literally don't have anything to say about, so let's move on to some more serious responses. One of the best ones I got was from Liam Talks Motorsport, who said the point of F1 is to be the top sport in the world to entertain viewers to join our sport, so they can make revenue from it. F1 is so entertaining, and this year is the closest season since 2018. F1 is life. It's supposed to show that cars going round in circles is fun. I've already explained the money bit, but the entertainment bit is something I've just realized while writing this script that I've completely missed out. The point of all sports is to be competitive, close entertainment. When you can celebrate if someone scores scores a goal, wins a point, or makes an overtake. In 2021, F1 looks set to be exactly what we hope for in terms of close racing. I genuinely cheered when Max Verstappen got past Lewis Hamilton in the Bahrain Grand Prix last week, which I'll admit didn't age very well at all, but even so, I enjoyed that race infinitely more than the last race of 2020 because of how good the racing was. Sure, the cars can lap the track faster than anything else, but ultimately there's no point watching unless we see good racing too. That's also one of the main reasons I prefer Formula 2 at the moment, but I'd be prepared to bet everything I own that F1 in 2022 is going to be the best season we've seen in a long time. The final response I want to read out was the longest I got, so here goes. Technological innovations that it's encouraged ever since the start of the sport. From enhancements in the automobile industry to even Williams training doctors to do a pit stop so they can practice acting under high pressure environments. And of course the amazing collaboration from last year where teams set their rivalries apart to come together and fight the current global pandemic and create breathing apparatus within their factories. This one covers the final point I wanted to make in this video, which is that F1 also allows for car manufacturers to develop new technologies to use in road cars. Hybrid technology has been developed by F1 in the recent years, and F1 cars have also helped to pioneer technologies such as 5G to transfer data from the car to the garage, all the sensors needed on board, they'll go into self-driving cars and things like that, simulation technology and machine learning. Paddle shifters, adaptive suspension, carbon ceramic brakes, and even wing mirrors were first seen on Formula 1 cars as well. In a way, F1 is the fastest R&D playground on Earth, allowing for car makers to test out new technologies which can help make road cars even better. I'm sorry if this has ended up sounding like some kind of PR stunt by F1, these are all my own opinions. Apart from the tweets, of course, they're not mine. And as always, remember that I'm just as entitled to my opinions as you are to yours. With that said, thank you for watching this video, leave a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you're new. Drop a comment below to let me know your thoughts, and I hope to see you all in the next one.